You straight up walked up to the police station and killed 5 people on the spot. But the cops didn't arrest you. They called you a hero and gave you a round of applause. All because your mom accidentally scraped a luxury car on her way home from work. 5 drunk rich kids saw she was broke, figured they'd never get a dime out of her, so they went off, cursing her out non-stop. They peed on her. They even forced her to eat dog poop off the sidewalk. And you happened to walk by right as all of this was going down. You grabbed a cleaver without thinking, hacked your way from the government building all the way to the police station, and killed every last one of them. Chief Judge Gao Weimin took one look at the case. Sure, it made sense why it happened, but the law in Longguo is no joke. A case involving 5 murders? Death penalty, no exceptions. After the first trial, the second trial, and final sign-off from the Supreme Court, execution day had finally arrived. You opened your eyes and looked out the window. A crowd had gathered, classmates, friends, people you knew. Your mom, Li Shulin, was being held up by a few people, face soaked in tears, desperately waiting for you to appear. Watching her sob so hard she couldn't even stand straight, it broke you. But you had zero regrets about taking out those 5 pieces of trash. If you hadn't, who knows? You and your mom might have been the ones who ended up dead at their hands. You opened your mouth to say something, but the words never came out. At this point, what was there even to say? Anything you said would only make your mom hurt more. There was no point. Gao Weimin saw you weren't leaving any last words. He gave a quick wave. 6 bailiffs closed in around you and walked you toward the execution site. But the second you got in the vehicle, you knew something was off. Longguo had switched to lethal injection back in '97. The execution was supposed to happen right in the van, then straight to the crematorium. But this van, just rows of regular seats, no gurney anywhere. You turned and looked back at Judge Gao Weimin. Gao Weimin looked like he wanted to disappear. He scratched his nose and said awkwardly, "Hey bro, just don't freak out, all right?" You rolled your eyes hard. Don't freak out? Is there anyone out there who's actually in a rush to die? Gao Weimin winced. Yeah, that came out wrong. He followed up. That's not what I meant, bro. Things have shifted a little. There's a good news and a bad news situation. Which one do you want first? You were absolutely speechless. You're literally about to die, and these guys are making you pick a multiple choice question? But at the same time, a flicker of desperate hope lit up inside you. Hey, better to be alive than dead, right? Chief, hold on. Are you saying there's actually a way out for me? Did the court find evidence I acted in self-defense? Are they gonna overturn my sentence? Gao Weimin just stared at you, completely done. He shook his head. I'm gonna have to start with the bad news. The lethal injection van in Jiangcheng broke down a few days ago. Hasn't been fixed, so we're switching to a firing squad. What the? Are you serious right now? Hearing that lethal injection had been swapped for a firing squad, you absolutely lost it. Gao Weimin panicked. Bro, calm down, calm down. There's still a good news, remember? You snapped back. Then what's the good news? Gao Weimin gave a little smile. So here's the thing. We specially pulled 10 old-school bazookas from the military. We're gonna send you off with 10 rounds of 60mm shells. Quick, painless, you won't feel a thing. You stared at the Chief Justice with the most dead-inside look on your face as he kept hyping up the bazookas. So that's the good news and bad news? Bad news. The injection van broke, so now it's a firing squad. Good news. Forget the firing squad. We're upgrading to an artillery execution. That it? The bailiff scrambled to hold you down. Gao Weimin himself looked genuinely embarrassed. Just a minute ago, he thought, this guy killed for his mom, he's got guts, let's give him a dignified send-off. Now he had to turn around and say that dignified send-off wasn't on the table anymore. Straight up replaced by a bazooka execution. Nobody would take that lying down. Bro, I need you to stay calm. Once the Supreme Court sends us the execution order, we have to carry it out. That's just how it works. Forget the van breaking down. Even if all 10 bazookas jammed today, we'd still get it done with a knife if we had to. Hearing that, you finally settled down. It was what it was. What were you even going to fight at this point? You already pled guilty. Why did it even matter how it ended? You sat back in the cold seat and stared blankly out the window. Gao Weimin and the bailiffs all breathed a sigh of relief the moment you stopped fighting it. The van pulled up to the execution site not long after. The place was packed. Longguo hadn't held a public execution since '92. Part of it was about giving the condemned some dignity. But also, public executions ate up a ton of manpower and resources. And today was unlike anything before. This was the first time in Longguo's history that artillery had ever been used to carry out a death sentence. But what caught you off guard, the crowd outside the execution ground wasn't there to watch. They were there to see you off. The story of you killing 5 men outside the police station to protect your mom had gone national. But the law is the law. No matter why it happened, it didn't change the fact you were sentenced to death. So most of the people in Nanjing City showed up on their own just to say goodbye. You looked out at the crowd and cracked a smile. The second they saw you smiling, the whole place erupted in cheers. You were about to say something. Then, out of the corner of your eye, you saw your mom and your closest friends chasing after the van, sobbing and screaming your name. Your throat tightened, the words never came. The ones who suffer the most are always the ones who love you.